Benfica does have a lot of history. They were around since 1904. I think it's all in due credit for my boss, who is the CIO of the company, João Copeto. He's been very forward thinking for the past decade, or maybe even a little bit more than a decade. Before I even joined, my boss, Copeto, he already had a team of software developers in-house, which is kind of unheard of. Most of the time, 10 years ago, you would hear clubs working with software developers, maybe with like a consultancy firm or with a software development outfit, where they would just kind of outsource their work to someone else. So he had this vision that things needed to be done in-house. Actually, 10 years ago, we decided to get the rights of a very early concept computer vision, a company called Data Tracks. And so we've been doing tracking data for the last 10 seasons, now just only on our games. But it just goes to show that the club does have deep history, but with the right people at the right positions, you can really be forward thinking. And so my boss is one of those people within the club. And for him, it was just a natural extension of his software development team that he already had to bring on a data scientist to now start making sense of all the data that they were collecting. For us, it really helps us with either recruitment, so trying to understand what is the physical capabilities of a player, and also what's the positional intelligence of the player. So using data like Opta, Y-Scout, or other events providers like StatsBomb, we can get more or less an understanding of if a player is going to be good for us or not. However, broadcast tracking can maybe add one or two more layers in terms of understanding their positional intelligence and understanding how they press, understanding their physical capabilities as well, to see if this sort of player is actually capable of playing within our system. The second, again, like I said, was that we want to make sure that we create a good network of clubs that we collaborate with, and we are loaning our players out to teams that we know play a similar style of play, so that if that player ends up coming back for us next season and we need to integrate him into our own philosophy, our own game model, it's a little bit of an easier transition. We're not asking him to play in a different way that he was playing last season when he was out on loan. I'll start with the blockers, and then I think that'll help answer the way to get everyone to use it. So I think the main blocker starts from an understanding of what are we doing with this information. Without a good process put into place within the club to make sure that the key senior decision makers are aligned with the people who work with the data, the coaches, the trainers, the scouts, all of those personas, there needs to be a clear communication channel between the two types of personas that show what is the benefit of us having this data in the first place. And so I think that there are a lot of moments or a lot of situations where there might not have yet been situations or clear communication channels that have been created within a club to show what's the benefit of all of the event data that we're getting. And so if that's not shown, if the benefit of event data is not shown, then there might be a little bit of hesitation in terms of, well, a senior leader or someone making the decision of purchasing something saying, well, I don't know 100% what we're getting from what I'm already paying for. So you're asking me to pay for something else, but I'm not sure of the benefit I'm getting from what I'm already having. And so I think the first thing is just better communication channels within the club between the people that are signing checks and purchasing data, purchasing technologies, and the people that are working with this on a day-to-day basis. And so that would be probably the first blocker that can be resolved. The second blocker, I think, is we have this sort of syndrome of we don't know what we don't know. And so it makes it a little bit hard to be introduced to new concepts. When a club gets introduced to a new concept, whether it's in tactical analysis or whether it's in physiological monitoring, a lot of these new concepts are a bit tough to adopt or tough to understand and interpret because we do have this sense of we don't know what we don't know. And so there are companies that come to clubs saying, hey, we can sell you XYZ. And the clubs are speaking from here and the companies are speaking from here, and there's still not an alignment in terms of making sure that the clubs really understand what is potential value for what is being sold to them. And so the second communication channel is then now club to data provider, technology provider, like that. So I think if those two were assessed better, or those two communication channels were a bit clear, I think you would find a process of adopting broadcast tracking a bit easier. One way, or one suggestion I would throw towards you guys as SportLogic, is to really understand, where does event data end, and then where does tracking data or broadcast tracking data start? And then really highlight that gap to say, okay, you can do a lot of cool things with event data, but you can't do XYZ. And to do XYZ, you need to have broadcast tracking data, and that's where we come in. And the importance of doing XYZ is saving money on recruitment, or being able to do opposition analysis, things like that. And so being able to kind of highlight what's the delta between broadcast tracking and event data, and then explaining the importance of how that can be used either in day-to-day operations or bigger picture operations, that will also help as well. Having eyes in more places, and also being able to smartly filter on the people that we should physically have eyes on. And so I wholeheartedly believe that the benefit of data-driven recruitment is creating a framework for the scouts to leverage, where they don't necessarily need to see every single player in person. They can use data to then create a smart list of 10, 15, 20 people that they want to see, and then really go see those people in person physically with their own eyes. Given the current situation of the pandemic, that might not even be possible. So having as much data having as much accurate data as possible, which is scaling beyond your own league, can help you with the scouting process. Another thing I would say is that the pandemic has definitely affected the financial picture and the financial situation of clubs. So the transfer market and the market value of players are also changing. And I think it makes it that much more important to have as much of a complete profile on someone that you're scouting before you approach a club for purchasing that player, because you might actually be able to negotiate a good deal when it comes to transfers. So if you take a look at Barcelona Innovation Hub, if you take a look at the announcement that Real Madrid made using Real Madrid Next, I know other clubs are also thinking about creating their own innovation hubs. So I think that's really fascinating, is that now football clubs are the canvas or the medium through which we can showcase a lot of cool technology. Computer vision is one of them. I believe that the biggest innovations that we're going to make is really understanding what the game is about. Is football an attacking game, or is football primarily a defending game? What is the nature of a transition? What really is a transition? What exactly makes one player stand out from another player in terms of their decision-making capability under certain contexts? These sorts of questions have been answered by coaches, by video analysts, through their eyes and through their intuition and through their knowledge of the game. The innovation that I see right now that's going to be happening in football is that data can help coaches and video analysts come to a new understanding and a more enriched understanding of the game by being able to analyze lots of games with scale and extracting out those insights from analyzing 70 plus, 100 plus leagues. And so we will be able to, in the future, I hope, get to a point where we have a better understanding of what really is football. What is the goal of football? Is it really about scoring goals, or are there other mini games being played between the times when teams score goals? What are those mini games? And how can we then start to quantify the quality of a player when they are playing in a certain mini game? And when I mean a mini game, I mean a 3v2 situation on the right-hand side when transitioning from a more organized shape to a more counter-attacking shape. And so, yeah, I think that hopefully that answers your question. I feel like I can go think about a lot of other things as well.